So we know everyone's trying to cut costs wherever they can.
Yep.
And for us, one of our big improvements over the past few years has been our electric bill.
It has. It's
And
been challenging.
It has been. And we want to share with you what we have been doing to cut our electric bill in half for 6-7 months out of the year. Maybe 8?
Probably.
Probably 8 months out of the year. But before we get started, I'm Julia.
I'm Aaron.
We are the Canny Couple. We are a small homestead family in rural Southwest Virginia that work every day to merge homesteading and frugality. Part of frugality, and this is something we talk about a lot, is finding unique,
Creative ways
to cut costs.
Yeah.
And electric bills, for us, it's more challenging.
It is. A lot of people say, well, have you shopped around? No.
We don't have an option.
We don't have an option to shop around. We have one choice.
One choice. And if you look across our state line, it is $50 more.
Cheaper.
Yeah, for
I mean,
us.
cheaper, not more. Oh, we're $50.
We're $50 more expensive. So somebody in just 20 minutes down the road from us, their electric bill, if they use the same kilowatt hours as we would.
Same company.
Same company. Would be $200. Ours would be $250.
Yep.
And we keep getting constant rises. So
We do.
we've heard a lot of energy companies are going down in price. We're not experiencing that. We're only going up. We got a little decrease.
Well, no, it's a written thing. If approved, they will reduce our bill by $2.10.
They keep going up a little bit. Before it was $1.40. They're squeezing those pennies in there for us. So $2.10
Average for 1,000 kilowatt hours.
for 1,000, which isn't anything. And so we've really struggled, and for a really long time we felt like this was an area we could not change.
Yeah.
So today we want to share with you what we are doing, the things we started last year, the things we're doing now that will help cut your electric costs. Some of these things seem really, really simple, but for us they really work.
Exactly.
And I guess we need to start with saying where we live in our area, one of the things that most houses have is a heat pump.
So for people up north, for example, this is a unit that does heating and cooling.
They're not separate.
Right.
And it uses a lot of energy.
It does.
It uses a lot of energy. So just for reference,
Yep.
that's one of those things. So the first thing I would say we did is curtains. So this was the very first improvement I made.
It was, but we've expanded over.
We've
over the
really
years.
changed. So we started with blackout curtains, and they were cream colored,
Yeah.
and they worked really well.
They did.
You could tell a difference
Yes.
immediately. So we put those up, and now we have two sets of curtains. We have a white back and then a dark back, and we can go between them, but I usually leave them both up because it double insulates
Yep.
the sunshine from our windows. So we have really good windows.
We do.
We replaced.
That was something we invested in with the homestead update. It was a three-pane window.
But the sunshine coming through creates so much heat.
Before it was unbearable.
It was unbearable, but even now it's still a lot.
It's still a lot. This helps.
So what I was doing before is I wasn't really closing the windows. I was letting in all that natural light. Well, what was happening, it was getting harder to cool the house.
Right.
So what I did is I actually took our curtains, our white back curtains, and I doubled them up so it would cover half of the window where I needed that window open. So it blocked out a lot of that sunshine. It's really helped a lot.
Yeah.
So you want white to reflect the sunlight. And I will tell you, I was skeptical. I didn't think this was actually going to work. It does.
It does.
It really does. We make sure we use the dark back ones because they absorb the heat. That will give you a little bit more warmth in the wintertime. But it does work. All of our overhead lights, these overhead lights, we keep them off.
We do. I know with LEDs,
They say it doesn't generate.
It doesn't generate as much anymore, but you still feel a little. I mean,
You do.
I
It does.
I think honestly for us, it was we weren't fully switched over to LEDs before, and just out of habit, we just keep on.
But I can tell you the kitchen, when I turn them on and when I have them off, I feel like the kitchen gets warmer because the kitchen's the one room, if there's an overhead light on, it's on in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And I feel like the kitchen tends to be warmer than any of the other rooms in the house.
But either way, we use little
lamps.
lamp stand
Yeah.
ones that are, like 6 foot tall. You just have a little LED bulb at
They
the
use
top
7
of them.
watts, nothing.
Yep.
They use
Yep.
nothing, and that really works well for us. The other thing I have been doing, this is new for us, so I've started cooking at night. We're
Well,
talking late at night.
and this is mostly because of how hot it's been
Yes,
for
it's
us
been
lately.
so hot.
So we're talking for us 90-degree days, day in and day out, which is very unusual for us.
We have some, but the heat index itself, because we live in a very humid climate,
Been in the hundreds.
So you can use your oven or anything like that.
Yep.
It's really going to get your house hot. So we meal prep. It works really well for us. We love to meal prep. It saves me time throughout the month, the weeks. And what I've been doing is I've been cooking at night. So we look at the temperature, we kind of gauge, see how long it's going to take me to cook, and I will start cooking around 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
Maybe 11, maybe 12, depending on what we're cooking and how long it'll take. But that's worked out well. It's kept the
Right.
house a lot cooler.
Right. It's not heating up the house in the middle of the day, and you're having to find a way to keep it cool during that time.
The kitchen would be unbearable.
It would be, yes.
It would be unbearable. And we also use our little convection oven. We've been using that a lot to heat the food. And what I use is I use to reheat. And I would have thought it would have put off more heat, but it really doesn't.
And we use our EcoFlow battery to run that off of. So that's electricity we're not using. So it is keeping the energy costs down.
It works really
in that
well.
method.
I also utilize the Instapot if I have to cook during the day. So if I'm making like chicken broth or something like that for our meal, I'll use the Instapot. It puts off some, but not nearly as bad. I'm canning with the electric canner, which it puts off less heat than the Instapot.
It does. It
really does. I was shocked.
We need to do a review on that sometime for you all as well.
We do. I need to show you all how this thing works. I really do like this. I think it's one of the best investments we've made on the homestead for me. And I will be utilizing it so much whenever we get good deals in this summer.
And you've been using your thermal cooker.
I've been using the thermal cooker, yes. Thermal cooker. It's another one I need to do a review for you. I've been making breakfast. It's wonderful for breakfast. It makes the best oatmeal. Erin doesn't like steel cut oats.
Those were good this week.
They were really good.
They were really good this week.
They were really good this week because it's just one of those things. I had this container of them. Erin doesn't really care for them. But the way the thermal cooker works is you heat up your food. You keep it warm or get it to a good boil for about 10 to 20 minutes. Put the lid on it, stick it in the actual thermos that it sits in, and close it and let it set. I let it set overnight. Open it up that next morning, divvy it out. It's wonderful.
That's something we're probably going to be looking for a second one of, yeah.
I see my canning season this helping, especially when I'm making butters and things, because we don't leave our crock pots or anything like that plugged up overnight. It would freak him out.
I wouldn't sleep.
He wouldn't sleep. So what I can do is I can actually take it, put it into the thermal cooker, let it continue cooking a lot slower.
Yep.
It'll keep cooking, and then transfer back to the crock pot the next day.
Right.
That's kind of how we were looking at that. We run most of our appliances at night. This helps.
It does. So we're talking
Dishwasher,
laundry, stuff like that to reduce any type of heat that it's putting out during hot part of the day.
Yeah, if you're using a dryer, you need to use that at night. Do not use that during the day.
Don't use a dryer. Don't. We're talking electricity cost savings. Don't use a dryer. No.
Well, a lot of people don't want to give up their dryer.
Drying racks.
We agree.
We've done this.
But before, would you have given up your dryer? Before I came along and showed you the ways.
If I'd known how, yes.
The other thing that we do is thermometers. So these little thermometers, they are so handy to have around your house.
Right, and we've got these placed around different places that we want to make sure that certain temperatures are in a certain range, make sure it's not getting too hot in areas, etc. These just run off of, I think these were AAA's, just one, and it's ones that we, might look at getting
even more.
Well, maybe not this type, but something we can monitor, you know, from like our home assistant type of thing in the future. It's more we can automate, you know, type of thing.
Right. So these help tell us if it's too warm, like in
Yep.
the baby's room, if it's too cold, and we are able to gauge and manage the temperatures a lot better with these.
Right.
So much better. It is a game changer. Especially in the wintertime, if you lose power,
To make sure you're staying warm enough.
to make sure you stay warm enough. This has been one of the best things that we have started to use.
Yeah.
It's one of the preps people don't talk about.
Right. We
They
did
really
a video on this, like our most the
Most
prep,
forgotten
prep. Yeah.
We put fans strategically around the house. So we like box fans. These are some that I bought
Well,
ages ago.
Even ceiling fans.
Well, even the ceiling fans. So every room when we updated the house, we put ceiling fans up.
And all uses the same light bulb type, the generic E26. So you're not having to search for some random light bulb.
We found that out the hard way. We had to replace the fan in the
Yeah.
kitchen before we did the house remodel. And we didn't look at the light bulb type. And we also didn't make sure that we did get the globes were open. The globes were open on that one. You didn't have to take a globe down. You could screw them in without taking the globes off.
Is the previous one.
It was the previous one. You had to take the globes off.
Yes. So all lights have to be accessible without
We have
something
one
to take
globe,
off.
one globe, and we had to because it was so small.
Right.
But every room that is big enough has a ceiling fan.
Mhm.
And that helps keep the flow of energy throughout the house. And then we have box fans near where our air conditioning units are. So we have 2 window air conditioning units. You're probably hearing
Yeah.
the one go off right now because it's beside the camera.
Well, hopefully not.
Well,
since-
hopefully not because of our things. But if
Yeah.
you are, that's what you're hearing, that kind of noise in the background. But what we do is we are pushing that air throughout the rest of the house. And it helps.
It does.
It really does. You do not
mean,
realize how much that helps.
You know, that might be something in the future we invest in some better oscillating fan type of something.
I need one for our bedroom
Mhm.
because that one's the harder one because it's up a little bit higher, and I need it to be more maneuverable.
Yep.
But we also need to be able to get into the bedroom.
Right, right.
So I use a chair and a box fan, and it works right now.
Right. So we use 2 box fans currently. We have a third one available to us.
If we need it.
But we just use 2 and 2 window units. One 5,000 BTU and one 8,000 BTU. So the 5,000 is a windmill. The 8,000 is a Medea U-shaped one.
And they work really well.
Yes.
They're working really well. We're so happy with them. They have kept us very comfortable. You saw when I just showed you. We want the house to stay around 78.
Yep.
78, 79. That's where we would be if we had our main unit on. We wouldn't have it any lower than that. And you can see right now we're at 75.9. And we were at a 90-some degree day. It was really hot. And this is when it gets hotter for us.
In the evening.
Right
time.
in the evenings, right before it gets dark, it tends to get like a really, really hot, and then we have to kind of cool the house down. We also use window fans.
We have 2 of
We
those.
have 2. We have one in the kitchen. We have one in the back of the house, and
in the office,
In an
which
office.
probably gets the hottest with the computers.
it does. So what we do with those is at night when it's cooler, after it's dropped past like 75-ish,
We turn those
we
on.
turn those on. During the day, early, depending on the day, sometimes it's around 10 o'clock, sometimes it's 9 o'clock, sometimes it's 7 o'clock, depending
Right.
on how warm it is outside. What we do is we turn those off, unplug them, and cover them with an insulation. So I put Velcro insulation around them so it sticks and it doesn't blow that hot air in.
Right, and we use NOAA's hour by hour, so NOAA weather, so weather.gov. We use their hour by hour to see when we should probably be closing those. I will say in the future, we hope to get some sort of weather unit outside so we can actually gauge our area a little bit better than the closest town.
Because it's really hard to manage it, and if we could have something here, it would help. It would be very helpful. It really would, because when you're on a mountain, it could be warmer or it could be cold. standard.
Right.
It's never the same.
Never.
The same. But it does help because we're able to maximize our cooling from the inside versus the outside.
Right.
And it will get the house pretty cold. We've gotten the house at 69 or under with those little window fans.
Yeah.
I mean, it really does. And we turn off all the other fans at that point. We let everything get a rest at night. But those little fans, they push that cold air in, and it can become cold.
It can if it's a cooler night.
When you go to bed, this is probably the hardest part people deal with. And I'm actually seeing that the experts, I don't know who the experts are, but every article I'm seeing, this is expert. They're saying you should actually go to bed and have your temperature set to 82 or 84 degrees at bedtime.
Well, you don't even need a blanket then.
You would need a blanket then. I would actually prefer cooler at bedtime than I would waking up because I have a harder time sweating than I would.
Right.
I would feel like that would be very hot. So here's what we have done. Cooling sheets. T-shirt sheets are amazing for this.
They are.
They really are. They're too thin in the wintertime. They are way too thin in the wintertime. They're so cold when you get into them. But they are great at this time of the year. So T-shirt sheets and then cooling blankets. Like they make cooling blankets you can actually sleep with. They have cooling mats. I've looked at possibly investing in some of those for us.
Those are good options. Is that how you all keep your bedroom cooler at night? Leave that down below in the comments.
We would love to know because I'm always looking for something new and different. But I also say loose clothing, workout clothing that's made to help keep you cool, moisture wicking, cotton, linen. Those are good options. Things like that. Anything that you could think of. It's just really it's just really basic things that you can do. But I can tell you, we've done all these things. We do them consistently.
We do.
Every day.
And we are able to keep our electric usage under 1,000 kilowatt hours in the summer, not in the winter, but we are under 1,500 kilowatt hours in the winter.
Now, in the winter time, we'll be doing some different things this year, so hopefully we'll be able to keep it down below that. But for right now, we are keeping it down under 1,000. This is probably, we've not had to turn on the air conditioning unit yet. The heat pump.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, the heat pump.
I was
We've turned on the little air conditioning unit.
But no, I don't foresee us having to turn on the big unit.
No, because we've been able to actually keep it really comfortable with this management system. Keeping the curtains closed, running those window fans. Now, I will say I do have 2 windows I need to get curtains for, some sort of a curtain system. I didn't want to because they're smaller, but I'm going to have to.
Yeah.
Because it's just too much sunlight that comes through and we're just getting all that heat.
Right. Not
that I don't like sunlight. I like the natural light, but we need to push that heat out.
We're vampires, so.
My little one is. She does not like the sun in her eyes. Like, no, she cries. It's cute, but she does not like it. So what would you say is probably the best thing that we have learned through our journey here?
That you can always make changes. Sometimes they can require small investments, but we've learned sometimes trying to go El Cheapo like an oscillating fan that ended up in the dump because they were useless. They used more energy than a box fan and pushed less air. You sort of got to do your research on everything. So make sure what you're trying to do. Look for options. Google.
Well, we just had
Facebook
this conversation.
Stuff.
We were talking about getting a stand-up fan and possibly one with a purifier and a really good name brand versus another brand, and the difference is $100. And if one has a filter I can clean versus the other, I would go with the more expensive one because after you buy 3 filters,
you've paid for that.
You've paid more.
Right.
You've paid more, even if it takes you a year and a half to buy the filters.
So how about you?
For me, it's just being diligent. You have to stick to it. It's hard. It's so hard, especially if you're a process habit-driven person. It is very difficult. But once you get those processes into place and you follow them and go through them, it works really well. That rhythm, once I have that rhythm, I'm golden and I can stick to it. Like unplugging my microwave, vampire energy. That's another thing you can do.
You got to think about all of those vampire. If nothing else, have it on a power switch that you switch it off when not in use.
Yeah, we just really unplug everything.
Well, like TV, for example.
No, we don't unplug the TV. It's too hard.
We'll flip a switch, for example.
But like our coffee pot, anything like that, we don't really leave it on. And if you use it for a clock, by a clock it works off the battery.
Yep.
It's worth it. It's so worth it. Just buy you a clock that works off of a battery. You don't need a clock on your microwave to tell you what time it is. That's just, to me, it's just an extra thing that, pulling energy, you can pay for a battery and be done with it. That's just a good option.
Well, what are you all doing to reduce your electricity costs this hot summer?
And stay cool. Tell us what you're doing to stay cool.
We would love to hear some of your ideas, suggestions, random things that we might not even thought of. Or if you got any questions for us, as well, you can either leave those down below or send them to thecannycouple@yahoo.com. And then go over and check out our link tree, which has links to all of our other social media content. And
as always, thank you for joining us on The Canny Couple, where we work hard, live simple, and enjoy life. Have a wonderful day.